He who tells a lie is not sensible of how great a task he undertakes, for he must be forced to invent 20 more to maintain that one. Alexander Pope. Lying and cheating is an all too common occurrence in relationships. Resentment festers. A sense of entitlement springs forth. Lies cover lies until the truth finally comes to the light. The hurt and betrayal spill out. A relationship that ends with cheating usually doesn't have a smooth finish, and sometimes it ends in more than tears and a broken heart. Drew Peterson was born on January 5, 1954, in Bolingbrook, Illinois. For the most part, he has remained here for his entire life, with small stints in other towns for work or school. After graduating from Willowbrook High School, Drew joined the Army. He briefly attended the College of DuPage in 1974 before moving to Falls Church, Virginia, to train as a military police officer. A military career was not in the cards for Drew, however. In 1977, he moved back to Bolingbrook, where he would start his career as a police officer. The following year, he was assigned to the Metropolitan Area Narcotics Squad. And the year after that, the department awarded him Police Officer of the Year. During the beginning of his career, Drew was with his first wife, Carol Brown. The pair met while they were in high school and attended Drew's senior prom together. They would marry in 1974 and have 2 children together named Stephen and Eric. 6 years into their marriage, Carol would learn that Drew was unfaithful and divorce him. Drew would marry his second wife, Vicki Connolly, in 1982. The pair operated a bar together in Romeoville while Drew continued to work as a police officer. During their relationship, Vicki alleged that Drew was abusive, and so did her daughter. Vicki claimed that Drew threatened to kill her and make it look like an accident. She would then learn that Drew was cheating on her with Kathleen Savio and divorced him. The divorce would be finalized on February 18, 1992. Not long after, Drew would marry Kathleen. They also had 2 sons together, Thomas and Christopher. Like Drew's previous relationships, this one also ended in a divorce that would be finalized on October 10, 2003. Unlike his previous relationships, however, this one was more public in its volatility. Between 2002 and 2004, police were called to the Petersons' house 18 times for domestic disturbance violations, including returning the kids late after visitation. A mere 8 days after his divorce from Kathleen was finalized, 49-year-old Drew married his 4th wife, 19-year-old Stacy Kales. Purportedly a troubled teen, Stacy received permission from her father to start dating Drew when she was just 17 years old. This would continue Drew's pattern of finding his next wife while still married to the last. And, to add insult to injury, they would live in a house located less than a mile from the home he previously shared with Kathleen. Stacy and Drew would also have 2 children together, this time a boy named Anthony and a girl named Lacey. Stacy also adopted the kids Drew had with Kathleen after her death and treated them as her own. Kathleen Savio's body was discovered on March 1, 2004, in the master bedroom of the home she shared with Drew. She was naked in a dry bathtub. Her death was originally ruled an accidental drowning by a coroner's jury, a jury that included a friend of Drew, who convinced the others that Drew was a good man who could never hurt his wife. Less than a month after his ex-wife's death, Drew put the house up for sale. He never mentioned Kathleen's accident to the buyers, instead saying he was selling the property because his kids preferred the secondary residence he had down the road. Just a few years later, on October 28, 2007, Stacy would go missing. And now, Kathleen's accident no longer appeared so accidental. Stacy was officially reported missing in the early morning hours of October 29th. She was meant to contact her sister Cassandra at a previously discussed time, and when there was no word from her, Cassandra grew worried. Drew would tell police that Stacy had called him at 9 p.m. on Sunday to tell him she left him for another man and left her 2002 Pontiac Grand Am at the Clow International Airport. Stacy's family launched a website to help find her. Shortly after Stacy was reported missing, on November 16th, Kathleen's body was exhumed for a forensic examination. At the behest of Kathleen's family and Fox News, former New York City medical examiner Michael Baden would perform the exam. He concluded that Kathleen died of drowning after a struggle. Though official autopsy results from the county have not been made public, post-mortem photos showed extensive bruising and scraping to her back, torso, and face. They also showed a large, unexplained gash in her scalp. During the chaos of his current wife's disappearance and renewed speculation of his ex-wife's death, Drew announced his plans to retire as a Bolingbrook police sergeant as of December 2007. On November 15th, the police pension board voted to allow Drew to collect his $6,000 a month pension as he had not been convicted of any crime. After the examination of Kathleen's body, Will County State's Attorney James Glasgow told the press he believed that Kathleen's death was a homicide made to look like an accident. On February 21, 2008, a pathologist would officially conclude that her death was a homicide like he suspected. The case had already been reopened and the investigation was being conducted according to new findings. During their investigations, police spoke with Reverend Neil Scory, a pastor at the church Stacy attended. He said that Stacy confided in him, telling him that she was afraid of her husband. She also said that Drew killed Kathleen, but she provided an alibi for him on the evening of her death. The Illinois State Police and FBI would follow several leads and issue 4 search warrants. The warrants were carried out on Drew's property, where his firearms and vehicles were seized. Over the course of the investigation, one of Drew's longtime friends would come forward with new information. Rick Mims said they bought 3 large blue plastic containers from a cable company where they both worked part-time in 2003. He provided photo evidence of the containers to police. After sharing his information, he would go on to sell his story to tabloid magazines for an undisclosed sum. Thomas Morphy, Drew's stepbrother who had a history of drug and alcohol abuse, attempted to take his own life just 2 days after helping Drew move a large container from the house to Drew's SUV. Thomas was convinced he had just helped dispose of Stacy's body. The neighbors corroborated part of Thomas's statement when they reported seeing Drew and another man carrying a 55-gallon barrel from the house shortly after Stacy's disappearance. Cassandra wanted to have Drew take a lie detector test regarding his knowledge about the containers, but his attorney denied that any were missing from the garage. On April 11, 2008, Drew would make an appearance on Larry King Live with his attorney to talk about the case. The interview was aired again on May 9, 2009, just 2 days after Drew's arrest. Despite the negative publicity, Drew would once again find himself engaged in December of 2008. The relationship with 23-year-old Christina Raines wouldn't last as long as his previous ill-fated relationships, though. Seeing how controlling Drew was and fearing what the retired cop may do, Christina's father gave her an ultimatum. Christina would come to her senses at the end of January 2009 and claimed the engagement was a publicity stunt to keep Drew in the media spotlight. Drew seemed to enjoy the attention just a bit too much. Along with the Larry King interview, Drew also appeared multiple times on the WLS-AM radio station with Mancow Mueller. One of these radio interviews was conducted from the county jail, and following the appearance, Drew's access to the media would be restricted. Drew Peterson was arrested and indicted by a grand jury for the murder of Kathleen Savio on May 7, 2009. His bail was set at $20 million, but in July 2010, a judge ruled he would remain in jail for the remainder of his trial and appeals process. The trial would not be an easy one, however. On July 21, 2010, it was revealed that hearsay statements were not reliable enough for a jury to hear. Judge White issued a 4-page ruling in May, which had been obtained by the Daily Herald. The ruling stated that the prosecution proved Drew Peterson killed Kathleen Savio and Stacy Peterson by a preponderance of evidence. But nearly all statements attributed to Stacy do not prove sufficient safeguards of reliability. Due to their lack of direct evidence, Stacy's statements were crucial to the prosecution's case. In April 2012, an Illinois appellate court ruled that 8 of the previously declined statements from Kathleen and Stacy could now be used in the trial. The defense would argue this was a violation of Drew's Sixth Amendment right to confront anyone testifying against him. Due to the circumstances of the trial and the evidence they had, the Illinois state legislature would pass Drew's Law. This would allow courts to use statements from unavailable witnesses, provided prosecutors can prove they are credible and the witnesses were killed to prevent testimony. One of the trial's available witnesses, Jeff Patcher, claimed that Drew offered him $25,000 to hire someone to kill Kathleen and told him it would be a secret he would take to his grave. As the trial came to an end, the Chicago Tribune reported that a judge would rule a mistrial on August 2nd due to prosecutors submitting inadmissible evidence. A few days later, Drew would say he wanted to withdraw a request for a mistrial. According to his lawyers, he wanted the current jury to decide if he killed his third wife. On September 6, 2012, Drew was found guilty of the premeditated murder of Kathleen Savio. His sentencing would come on February 21, 2013, where he was denied a mistrial and given 38 years in prison. He was incarcerated at Menard Correctional Center in Chester, Illinois, but was later transferred to Terre Haute, Indiana. Within the first month of incarceration, Drew was attacked by a fellow inmate who hoped to sell his belongings on eBay. On February 9, 2015, Drew received another charge when attempting to put a hit out on prosecutor James Glasgow. He was found guilty in May 2016 of solicitation of murder and solicitation of murder for hire. This earned him an additional 40 years on his sentence. Drew made multiple attempts to appeal his sentence, but on September 21, 2017, the Illinois Supreme Court upheld the final decision. 2 years later, in December 2019, Drew was moved from a federal facility to an undisclosed state facility. Then, in October 2021, he would submit a handwritten petition for post-conviction relief, which would reveal his location. He was now known as Inmate 279193 at Indiana State Prison. Just a few months later, in May 2022, Drew's lawyer, Joel Brodsky, made a surprising statement. He was considering releasing confidential attorney-client information despite the legal ramifications. From his conversations with Drew, Joel says he knows everything about both Kathleen and Stacy, and he feels bad that Drew hasn't taken responsibility. He claims that everything will come out after Drew dies. As of March 2024, Drew has returned to court looking to overturn his conviction and be retried. ABC 7 legal analyst Gil Soffer said it will be an uphill battle. He has nothing to lose. There's absolutely no reason why a man who's twice convicted and serving decades in jail won't try everything he can to get out. While Stacy is still officially considered a missing person, her sister Cassandra has since taken things into her own hands. She claims the remains of a body were found in the Chicago Sanitary and Shipping Canal near Romeoville. She started a GoFundMe to pay for the recovery and subsequent testing. At the time of writing, she has raised $7,075 of her $20,000 goal. This many years on, is it possible that Stacy may turn up alive and well? Or did she suffer the same fate as Kathleen? What do you think?